I'm Mrs. Cruz. I teach over at Roosevelt Elementary, so it's real close to here. Today we're going to talk about a story, but before we get going, I wanted you to think about, I know you've been doing toolkit lessons, think about the symbols that you've been using when you are reading your stories. What are some of those symbols that you've been using? Yes.
We put a C for connection.
Okay, excellent. So you put a C for connection. What else do you need?
An L for like what we learned.
Oh, you've already done the L for what you've learned? Okay.
We put a question mark whenever we have a question.
Question mark when you have a question. Anybody else? Those are the big ones right now. So today we are going to do the L. Maybe some of you remembered it last year from third grade. We're going to keep going with that, with the L. We're going to code our new learning with an L today. And this may be a topic that a lot of you may not know a lot about, but hopefully by the end of today you will know some more about it, okay? So the story, well, the book is called How We Know What We Know About Our Changing Climate. And the section in particular that we're going to be looking at is changing evidence from the ocean conveyor belt. Okay, so for a minute, I want you to think about what you know about the words climate change. Just let it sink in for a minute. What do you know about climate change? Turn and talk to your partner about what you know about climate change.
And this one, want to go and listen in.
Yeah, you can maybe have a couple of them shared.
Do you have a sense if they're kind of what they're saying?
I'm hearing something.
What are you hearing?
Okay, I hear some of you talking. I'm Miss Aleman, and I'm also from Roosevelt Elementary, and I also teach fourth grade, just like Miss Cruz. And I have a great group of students, just like y'all look like a great group of students. I was hearing some of you mention outside and how the weather is changing. Can some of you share maybe a couple of things that you mentioned with your partner? Yes?
We're like a little area.
So something she did is noticing what they were saying and highlighting that versus kind of just randomly calling on people. It helps focus.
Winter, it changed to cold, ice.
Okay. So you're talking about the seasons? Yes? Yes, sir? Kind of like here in Texas, right? Where we have one day it's hot and one day it's cold. Not quite, global. Have we mentioned global warming yet? We have not. We're going to talk about global warming in just a little bit. Will you let me know what I think you had your hand up. Somebody over here, I saw somebody signaling. Anybody else would like to share? Anyone else? Okay.
Global warming, how many of you have ever heard of the term greenhouse effect? You have? What are they talking about when they mention greenhouse effect? Because we think of the word green, right? And it's affecting, so what does that mean to you?
And maybe just do a test of like thumbs up.
Thumbs up if
Thumb.
you've heard of that. Have you ever heard of that? I just have
Sideways,
one.
I'm not sure.
You have some? Okay.
So it might be
Sideways.
worth it just to explicitly tell them.
How many of you heard like global warming like on the news? You've heard? Maybe not. Sort of, kind of, but not really.
Or also another word that you're going to hear today, real quick, and we'll see how many of you know that, is the word currents. Current. How many of you ever heard the word current when it talks about like an ocean current?
And what was the title again? It said the title is like changing
Evidence from the ocean conveyor belt. How many of you
Nemo.
Yeah.
Conveyor belt. Have you heard of a conveyor belt? You have? What do you know about conveyor belt? What do you think that is? Not sure? Well, let me tell you, when I think of conveyor belt, I think of the
So realizing
belt
you just need to explicitly tell them.
that there is at the grocery store. You put your groceries on that black belt that goes and moves the groceries from one place to another. Okay, there are waters.
Well, I'm almost wondering if we want to hold off till we read that part.
Oh,
about
do we?
Current.
Oh,
Well, what do you
okay.
guys think? I'm going to push the pause button for a minute, boys and girls. What do you guys think? I'm going to turn to you first. Do we want to hold off? Do we feel like that's almost too much? I'm wondering if, like, I think what you did is you did a really good job of getting their mind thinking about the conveyor belt, because that was the word in the title, and you threw that word current out there. But knowing it's going to come up, maybe that's the part we go into next. What do you guys think? Hold off for it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the fact that they have that idea of conveyor belt in their mind is a great place.
It's a great
Yes.
place.
Don't you think?
Moving things.
What do you
It
got,
moves
teachers?
things. Okay, can
Agreeing?
you keep
Okay.
that in mind, that a conveyor belt moves things?
Beautiful. Okay, so explicit. All right. And then Yvonne,
We're done?
you're done. See, it wasn't so bad. Perfect. And even who's next with her? Do you want to come? Why don't you just coming up? Yeah.
And in our school, we
here.
call our
pass
students
that to her.
scholars. So y'all are scholars, okay? Okay. Since long ago, people sailing the seas have been aware of currents. In quotations, we have rivers of water in the ocean that move in predictable ways. One of them was, in predictable ways. One of them was Benjamin Franklin, who recorded water temperatures as he crossed the Atlantic. Franklin even mapped the Gulf Stream, the great warm current that flows from the Gulf of Mexico northeast along the coast of the United States and Canada to northern Europe. Can someone tell me something?
Well, I'm going to start, like, just go ahead and do your, because here we're in the modeling section, right? So we're
Okay.
just going to share our thinking.
Oh,
So watch
okay.
how I did this. Watch how I'm sharing my new learning.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, but it's,
Oh, me?
you're the one about Ben Franklin. And I'm going to give this to you so you have something to write on.
Okay. So we go ahead and we write the L, and we code our new learning with an L. I heard earlier previously that you said you already knew how to code the L for new learning. Is that true? Yes. Okay. So here, where we're talking about Benjamin Franklin, is there something new?
Well, what was your new learning?
My new learning. All about me now. Nothing about y'all.
We're in that modeling
Okay.
phase. This is okay.
So,
you-
I teach third grade. And in third grade, Benjamin Franklin is one of the persons that we discuss at length.
You have a lot of background knowledge. That's cool. You have a lot of background knowledge about Ben Franklin.
So yes, because we study about communities and how they were, how they changed throughout time. And Benjamin Franklin was one of the founding fathers. And so one other thing that we learned was, number one, he was one of the persons who wanted to have firemen within our communities. Another one was that he wanted to establish the libraries. However, I did not know that Benjamin Franklin had actually been someone who measured what? It said yes, the temperature currents, right? So that's something new for me. So I would go ahead and I would write Benjamin
And they,
Franklin?
you know what I just realized now? They already have, right, so I didn't realize they already have their, you keep going, you keep going. They already have their post-it, so do we want them writing that as well? If that's new, we could say if that's new learning for you, write it down too.
If that's important for you, if that's something that you would like to remember and recall, then write that down as something that you've learned.
You guys are so prepared. You came with your clipboards and your Post-its and your pencils already. We didn't expect that. And teachers too, while they're kind of doing that. So even for a short lesson like this, I was kind of even thinking I might not even pass out the clipboards because it was going to be such a short lesson. Just having that quick model, a quick guided practice just orally is okay. But this is great. They have them, so we'll do it.
So
We're
there we
flexible.
go. I wrote it down. So now it's in my It's in my toolkit up here.
All right. And then you want to keep reading?
So
going to continue. So scientists discovered that when the warm Gulf Stream reaches the North Atlantic, it gives up heat, which is very important to weather and climate. This heat makes Europe warmer than it would be otherwise. As the water gives up its heat, it cools. Colder water is denser than warmer water and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. This creates a very cold current that runs back south from the Arctic Ocean beneath the Gulf Stream. The two currents are like a conveyor belt carrying the Southern Ocean's warmth north, then flipping around to bring cold water south. Oh, hold on. I learned something new right there. I didn't know that our currents were like a conveyor belt. And I know earlier they were talking about a conveyor belt, and I'm going to draw out what a conveyor belt is really quickly, okay? I'm going to switch to So, they were talking about a conveyor belt, and I know they mentioned at the store when you put your groceries on it. So what happens? You put your groceries on it, on the black top, right? And it goes one way. And then what happens to that black? It goes under. Good. It goes under and it goes right around and it goes back up. So the same thing happens with the water. So my new learning, and I need to take a Post-it note so I can write that down.
You can use the clipboard. There you go.
Oh, nice. So I'm going to write my L. I'm going to circle it. It's my learning. And I'm going to write that I learned, or I didn't realize. So I'm going to put I didn't realize. And if this is something that you didn't realize or you didn't know, write it down. So I didn't realize. I want to write it down. The two currents are like a conveyor belt.
I know. What do you think? Oh, okay.
So that's my new learning.
Awesome, you guys. We're going to switch out again, students. Thank you so much for modeling your thinking with us. No, you still wanted to keep reading and just model that piece, and then we'll give them a chance to try the guided practice.
Scientists call these kinds of ocean currents thermohaline currents because they are caused by differences in temperature, thermo, and saltiness, haline. Now, what I want to model is sometimes we can make connections to science or social studies, and this is a very big word, thermohaline. But sometimes when you know words like that start with thermo, you can kind of understand what they mean. Can anybody tell me a word that starts with thermo? Anybody? Yes? Thermal energy? Thermal energy, okay. Anybody else? How about thermometer? Have you heard of thermometer? Okay. Also, we have it on the wall. Thermostat. Very good, yes. So those are two words that start with thermo. Anytime you see the word thermo, it means something having to do with temperature. So thermohaline is salt that's different temperatures.
And so what part of that word must talk about the salt part then? If thermo is the temperature, which part must be the salt part? The haline.
Right.
So actually that's new learning for me. I mean, we could even jot that down. I'm going to borrow that clipboard again. That's all right. So I already, do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. I'm so sorry, I'm stealing, jumping ahead.
I'm going to write thermo, that means temperature, and haline, which means salty.
And that haline meaning salt, that's new, is that new learning for you? It's new learning for me.
Yes, I hadn't heard that before.
Cool.
So I get really excited when I learn something new.
So we just say now, going to have a chance to notice new learning as we read on. See if you have some new learning as we read.
Okay, so now you can have a chance to notice some new learning. So as I read, just hear me out, and if you learn something new, you can jot it down. Scientists realized that global warming is melting the polar ice and wondered, would Arctic meltwater affect the conveyor belt currents? Fresh water makes the ocean less salty and less dense. If enough extra fresh water from melting glaciers and sea ice was added to the seas around Greenland, the deep cold waters would become less dense. So let's stop and think about that question right there, or that statement, okay? What does that make you think? Let me reread that for you guys again. If enough extra fresh water from melting glaciers and sea ice was added to the seas around Greenland, the deep cold waters would become less dense. So you can turn and talk with a partner and tell them what that makes you think.
And then let's listen in to see if we think we need to go on or. That's interesting. And then teachers here too. So we could have stopped beforehand, but what's your sense of it when their model part? Were they ready to go on and try this work themselves? Didn't you think? Like it very much seemed like they were ready for that guided practice. The fact that we didn't have to tell them to start writing, they started writing right away. They're definitely ready. What kinds of things are you hearing them say? Anything that cues you in?
The young ladies over here talking about like it would be clean, cold water.
So here's your question as a guided practice. Do you want to just highlight some of that learning and kind of share it out for everybody? Do you know what I mean? And that sometimes keeps it a little more focused. And then maybe read on, you know, and kind of clarify. You might even clarify, do a little clarification of that new learning. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so let's refocus. Okay, I heard the young ladies over here talk, have some pretty good info, their thoughts. What did y'all think that would happen?
I thought that dense means like cold or like cold or like cold or clean, like clean water or cold water.
Okay, so y'all are agreeing. Do you agree? Clean, cold water. Okay. Anyone else have some thoughts? Something different, or did we feel the same? Yes, sir.
I think it means cold and dirty water.
So you're thinking cold and dirty. Okay.
Because they're really cueing in on that fresh water, making it less dense. I'm even wondering about if we want to go back and talk about this sentence. Would the
Okay.
Arctic meltwater affect the conveyor belt currents? So all this water melting is going to affect this current. If that's new learning for you, I don't know.
It is, yeah. Oh, yes. Science. This is definitely new learning for me. Science is not my strong point, but so when I find something new about science, so this is definitely all new learning for me. So is that can't even talk. New learning for you guys?
Even boys and girls, that part, I don't know if you heard it, but where would Arctic meltwater affect the conveyor belt? So if it's getting warmer, and if all that ice melts, will it affect that conveyor belt? Because we know because I already knew that. It wasn't new learning for me that when water gets cold, it goes down. If it heats up, then it rises back up, and that's how we get this conveyor belt. But if the temperature starts changing, and that's how we get these currents that travel all over the world. Have you ever seen Nemo? I thought one of the teachers came up with this idea earlier about Nemo. Raise your hand if you've seen Nemo. Right? What did that turtle float on to get to other parts of the world? He floated on the current, right? Well, so if the temperature changes, will it slow down that conveyor belt? And will that be a problem? I don't know. That's new learning for me. Makes me wonder. And this is where we can model too. Because I was kind of wondering, where are we going to model? Because it came later, that idea that sometimes we have new learning. Boys and girls, I kind of push the pause button. Sometimes we have new learning and we wonder about that new learning. So this is a great place. Do we kind of want to model that a little bit? You know? Do you want me to just keep going with that? Finish that? Okay. Jump in.
Okay. No.
Okay. So that kind of makes me wonder, will that be a problem for ocean life? You know, so sometimes, boys and girls, when we have new learning, like we learned about, with the temperature changing, it made us wonder, will that affect the conveyor belt? And then I kind of wonder, will it be a problem for ocean life. So I'm going to jot that down. So sometimes we might even jot that question down. So as you have new learning, you might have questions. I'm going to borrow your pen. I'm going to put that question. Will changing temperature in water affect the conveyor belt or / current? But now my real question, I'm going to put an arrow. Would it affect wildlife or a problem? Will that be a problem for ocean life? This is what I love about teaching together. Sometimes we get ideas from each other, and we get ideas from you and thinking from you, too.
And what happens when that ice melts? What does it turn into?
Water.
Water. And then that conveyor belt, do you think that's going to affect it with more water coming in?
I talked about this density, too. That's new learning for, so is that, well, I don't know, what do you think about that density piece? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Has anybody ever heard that word before, density? Okay, you've heard it? Okay, you'll probably be learning about density in 5th grade, but what density is, it's sometimes when you put something in water, it sinks to the bottom. If it sinks, it has more density. Sometimes you throw things in the water and it floats on top, that means it has less density. So what they're saying when we're reading here is that cold water has more density, so it sinks to the bottom. So hot water has less density, so you have your hot water on top. So now you have your hot water pushing the cold water, and so that's why it's going in a conveyor belt. It's pushing. Hot water is pushing the cold water, and the cold water is moving. So what happens is that the way I like to think about it is heat likes to go to cooler places. So the cold water from the North Pole and the South Pole go towards the equator in the middle where it's hotter, and then hot water is being pushed by the cold water, so they go to the North Pole and the South Pole. So now you have these conveyor belts,
The current.
and they're called currents.
Let's
Let's
read that sentence again.
So-
see if you have new learning from this.
Fresh water makes the ocean less salty and less dense. So we just learned about density. So is this some new learning for you guys?
Fresh water makes the ocean less salty or less dense. That's interesting. I'm going to write that down too. So fresh water makes the ocean less dense or less salty. I'm just going to write fresh water dash ocean less salty / dense. Because I would just want to write enough to just hold my thinking. So I didn't even write in complete sentences. I just put enough fresh water arrow, or actually equal sign might even be good, equals ocean less salty / dense. And that will be just enough to remind me of that new learning. Oh, I better put my L for new learning. Awesome. So boys and girls, before I say, who's doing the next part? I think we're, thank you so much. Do we have a sending them off to independent? Yep. And I have to show your pen.
Okay, my loves. So, you know that when you learn something new, you put the L. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take that strategy. We're going to come over here, like I said, get your new book. I'm going to give you some new stickies, and you're going to place those into the book where you have your new learning, or any connections you make also, but focus on your new learning. And we're going to see how you can do that on your own, okay, independently. So you're going to take your book, your stickies, and go do what you do, okay? All right. So I'm going to move these chairs, and then that way you can come the way I asked you to. No, we're not leaving it.
Hi, buddy.
What is that?
It's a microphone so that we can hear the teachers and we can hear you.
Oh.
So I might come around and do, so will you grab a book real quick? I might come and talk to you about your thinking.
Yeah.
If you have some new learning, so go grab a book.
My son got a book. My son got the like A and B like that.
Perfect. Go get it and see if you have some new learning. Even from the pictures, right? Absolutely.
Some got tag.
It's okay. What's your name?
Armando.
Armando. I'm Mrs. Burton. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Go grab your book, okay? If you have a book, go find a place where you can jot down your thinking. If you need more Post-its, grab more Post-its. Go grab your book.
You will get one from over here and you may draw pictures of what you learned.
And Armando, I'm going to have you go work on the rug. We're going to work. Okay. Here, bud. You go work on the rug, okay? Who else did you want to work on the rug with me?
You can take probably
Oh, the white ones, okay?
Jaden, go on the rug.
Jaden and Roger. He's a white. Roger can come up. Jaden and Roger, I'm going to have you come work on the rug. Grab a book. Jaden, you can go work on the rug. And Jesus, grab a book. And can you come work on the rug with me? So right here, Armando. Right here. So you guys can get started while we wait for our friends to come, okay? You can leave those right there. That's fine. Okay. I don't. Hold on. Let me get this fixed. Okay. So boys and girls, as you're going back to your seats and getting started, remember language that signals new learning. I never knew. Wow. I learned. I was surprised. Cool. I didn't know. And some of these other ones. And if you have other ones that you end up using, we can add them later in the lesson.
We talked about it. When you hear your brain go, whoa,
Love it.
that's where you learn something new.
Right.
And always read that at appropriate time, so we're used to it. Okay.
And so teachers, I'm just going to get started with the strategy group, and then I'll go out and confer a little bit, and then we'll pull them together for the share. It'll be a short. So guys, I'm going to have you get started. So here's the thing. So do you guys feel pretty good about this? Do you know a lot about the books that you have? Yeah. Here? Where's your book? Okay. So already you're kind of thinking, look at my eyes for a quick minute. So already you're thinking, Roger, Armando, look at me. Thank you, Jaden, for having your eyes on me. Already you're thinking, what do I already know about this? What do I already know about this topic? So when you go to read, you can really write down new learning you have. I'll let you guys get started. Yep, I'll let you get started reading and writing some new learning. And I'm going to let them get started too. Armando, can you two switch seats for me? Roger and Armando, will you switch real quick? And so teachers, I don't want to go out and confer yet because I want to give them time to get started. But I know some of these might need more one-on-one support, so I might just listen. This is a great opportunity, kind of like a mini running record, and listen to them read, you know? Oh, no, please, yeah, watch, yeah. Or listen in to the strategy group here. Hi, can we read it a little bit together? Okay. So what's this book all about?
Mountains.
You see these mountains? And what's the title? What's that first sound?
L.
The letter is L. What sound does L make? It does. What do you think? Oh. What's that next sound?
A.
That's the letter A. What sound does A make? Oh, A. What's the next? A says A. That's usually the first sound we write. Sometimes it says A, doesn't it? But let's try A first. La. Does that sound like a word? You know, let's put it all together. Land. Did you see how that, like you said all those sounds and the word popped right into your head, didn't it? Look at you smiling, you're reading. Good job, keep going. Land. Are mountains land?
Yeah.
They are. There are many kinds of
Mountains.
Well, what's that first sound? It's just like this on the front, except it's a lowercase letter, isn't it? What sound does L make? Oh. There are many kinds of L, D. We'll say each sound. And D. Is there a word? Look, there's a word in there you know. Do you know and?
Yeah.
So put O and. Can you say, so what's that word? Land. Yeah, good. There are many kinds of land. What land do you see? So what land do you see here?
Rocks.
What kind? Oh, rocks, yeah.
This one, like rocks.
Yeah. And look, even you can see those mountains again in the background, can't you?
I see the.
What kind of land is this? It begins with that sound.
The.
D. D says D. What kind of land is this? This is a D.
The. This.
Desert. Does that sound like a word you know? Does this look like a desert?
Yeah.
It does. Go ahead and read the whole sentence again. You knew that word.
I see
Touch the words.
the desert. I see the desert.
We'll touch each word.
I
Do you see I?
no
No.
see
Mm-hmm.
the
See
see
the.
the desert.
Mm.
I see
It
it. See
is
is
dry.
dry. The
Did you know that about a desert already? Deserts are dry.
yeah.
You already knew that? Yeah, then that's not new learning. If that was, that could be a new fact, but you already knew it, so it's not new. Let's see what other kind of lands we learned about.
Grass. I see the grass.
And you know this part. This is grass, but what's that part? Land.
Man.
Put it all together. Touch the word. Touch each word.
I
Oh, is that I?
no wait. I
Good.
see
Is there I?
no.
Nope.
See the grass. Land.
Say each sound.
A K N B.
Duh. Grass, land.
And
Does that look like land? Yeah, here's what I want you to do. You know what? I want you to go through the book and see. Well, so here, even thinking about a strategy group, like supporting with phonics. Now, I know we're intermediate, but sometimes we have that. So I'm debating on, is it worth it to really focus on some of that decoding or just look at the pictures and that would be okay to get meaning from the pictures. So, you know what, buddy, why don't you just go look through and see if like you learn anything about land, because this whole book is about land, right? So even looking at the picture, what can you learn about different kinds of land? Land is what?
rock.
Yeah, I'm gonna, that's new learning, write it down. Put it on a post-it. Land is rocks, write it down. Write it down. All right, did you guys find some new learning? Did you guys find some new learning in your books? You didn't find anything yet? Oh. What is it? Yeah. What is that spiky stuff in this kind of land? Do you know what that is? It's a cactus. Look at that in this land. So we were just talking about that with Ricardo. So there's lots of different kinds of land, aren't there? What's one kind of land? What kind of land is this? It's dry. Oh, and it has a cactus. All this land is what? This is a desert. Yeah. Okay, well then you keep reading until you find some new learning. What did you find? What did you? Oh. What do you notice here? The grass. So grass is one kind of land. So there's lots of different kinds of land. Did you know that? There's grass. there's desert. There's, Ricardo was realizing, hey, the rocks are kind of a land. What's another kind of land? Oh, mountains. Do you think that's important to remember? Did you know that already, or is that new learning? You knew that. What about this one? Oh, see the, what kind of forest? Rainforest, isn't it? All right. If you're done, you know what? I'm gonna let you go again and get. If so, you knew all. Did you know everything in here already? Yeah. See the forest. It's full of trees. Yeah. You can go. Why don't you go ahead and grab another book? Okay. Does he have another one? Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead and bring yours back and go get another one. And even if the decoding might be above, but so we can get more information maybe from the pictures. Did you learn some more? What else did you learn about land?
The trees.
Some land has trees. Write it down. And put an L for new learning. Don't forget to put an L. Can you put an L right there? Do you want to put an L? Is this the one you just did? Put an L. Remember, like we talked about, like an L with a circle. There you go. And then your next one, you can put some land has trees. What do you have some new learning. What did you learn? I'll let you finish writing. Ooh, this is interesting. What's this book all about? Can I see? In the rainforest. So now you're going to learn just about rainforests. So what do we learn is in a rainforest? Is that new learning? Did you know they were already in the rainforest? Yeah? Yeah? Let's keep looking. Yeah. First, can I make a note under here? Yeah, so you said there's some land has trees. And here you said some land has land is rocks. That's what you said, right? Okay, you can go bring this back. Do you need a new book? Go do some more new learning. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna move on. So who's doing the share, the next part of the lesson? Oh, perfect. So I will let you call them back.
And the circle.
Yep. So guys, actually, oh wait for Ricardo, come back. So here's the trick. Here's the tricky thing, Ricardo and so Ricardo, eyes on me, and Jesus, Armando and Jesus. So here's the thing. Sometimes when we read along, that happens. We know a lot. Jesus, did that happen to you? You read a book and there was no new learning for you, right? In that land book. And that's okay, that happens. So here, I love it how what you did, you went and got a new book. And so next time you read, you can see if you have some new learning.
It's like a brain.
You're gonna learn all about the brain. So next time you read, you can do that, okay? And you had some new learning here. You just had to keep on working and keep focused. Was there anything, and we're gonna talk a little bit about, how did this help you record your new learning? Help you write it down? You gonna keep track of it? Awesome. And, yeah. Oh, look at that. Almost looks like it's split down the middle. Could you draw a picture of that to show your new learning? Maybe draw a picture of that right here. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Okay, boys and girls, can I have your attention, please? I'm just going to stop you there. I want you to bring your leveled readers and your Post-it notes, okay? And we're going to come around and we're going to sit around the perimeter of the carpet, okay? So let me get this first row, Anicia's row.
Boys, can you come to the edge right here? Come around the perimeter. Come sit by me. Up on the perimeter, on the outside. There you go, like on the edge.
And you sit on
Jesus, can you
this,
sit up, bud? Thank you.
these first four, okay? And let me get John's row.
What? Oh, look at that. Oh, and look at us pointing out how the brain is connected
Okay, and you guys
to
can sit
other
right
parts of the body.
here. Leslie, Michael, and
Split
Mickey.
in half. That's good, yeah. So what is this new learning? What'd you learn here?
The brain is in the
It's connected. Can you say connected?
Okay,
draw a picture of
this
that?
last
That's
row,
new learning.
Jasmine's row, watch
Why
out
don't you
when
jot
you
it down
back
while
up
we're
your
reading here?
seat because they're right behind you.
Let's stick this one. We'll move this
You
one.
guys
Here
can
we
move
go.
onto the
Look at all
carpet,
that new
okay?
learning. The brain is connected.
And then this last row, right here, you two, just find any open spot, okay? Just not right here where I'm standing. This is my spot. Mijo, push in your chair. Push in your chair.
The brain is connected. What's that for sounding? Connected.
Come on, Roger.
Can we label that? What's that for sounding? Connected. What's that for sound you hear? Write that sound. Write that sound. What letter makes that sound? Write it.
John,
Says
scoot
C,
over a bit
says
so I can sit here. Okay, so it's very important after we do an activity like this, we want to share what we learned, okay? So, we learned today about new information. Right here, Roger. Right here. We learned about new information. Now, I want you to think about this question that I'm about to ask, okay? So before you answer, make sure you think about it first. Now, why do we have to write down things that are new? When we learn things that are new, why do we have to write it down? Anisha?
So we have to write it down so like if it's really important so we won't forget it.
Okay. Anyone else? Great. So, if you learn something new, what Anisha said, she said it helps you to remember it, right? And Isaiah, you can always go back and what can you do? You can always go back and check your thinking, right? That's what Thinking Tracks is all about. Okay, so at this particular time, I'm going to call on somebody to share their learning. Now, I know that you all didn't get through the whole book, and that's okay. You probably might have only got through, what, like 2 pages, right? So I'm going to call on someone to share their thinking track, what they learned, and then that person will call on somebody else, okay? And when you call on somebody else, well, actually, you're going to ask first, do you want to share? Does anyone want to share? And that person will call, okay? So I'm going to ask first right now, would anyone like to share something new that they learned? Okay, Armando, right? How did you start your thinking track?
I learned.
Brains.
You learned about the brain.
And what did you learn about the brain? What did you draw?
Okay.
Brain is in two parts. Yeah, the brain is in half. There's a line down the middle.
Yeah.
Has
Oh.
2 halves.
Do you want to call on somebody else to share?
Do you want to do that? Any connections? You skip. Okay.
Just ask, does anyone else want to share? And you pick.
Armando, good job. Pick some. Leslie.
I want to share is I didn't know that World War II was in the 1900s.
All right. So Leslie said that she didn't know that the World War II was in the early 1900s, right? Okay.
Does anybody understand?
Renee has his hand up.
Zippers were made in 1892.
Can you say that one more time, a little bit louder?
Zippers were made in 1892.
Okay. I didn't know that either.
I read that I did not know that Roberto Clemente came from a loving family.
Roberto Clemente came from a loving family.
Does anybody understand?
You didn't know that Jane Goodwill, what? Say that again? She likes to be alone. Okay.
Mickey has his hand up.
Okay, that Jane liked to be outside a lot. Okay.
Do you want them to keep going or do you want them to turn it
Let's do
off?
about 2 more, okay? So Mickey, call on somebody.
Jane Goodall was born in London, England on April 3rd, 1934.
Oh, okay. Councilman.
I did not know that the 34th was officially called Commonwealth of Great Britain.
All right. Okay, so I know everybody didn't get a chance to share out loud. So right now, all I want you to do is I want you to turn to this person that's sitting next to you, okay? Pick whichever side, and turn and talk about something that you learned, something different that you didn't share with us, okay? So take about a minute and do a turn and talk.
Switch paths with you, Roger. You can go over here. Sit by Armando. I think what's neat to notice about, it was interesting doing it that way, just having them do the one share rather than comments and connections. What it really highlighted, what I thought, especially if you're really wanting to highlight that language, you've heard that over and over and over again. So it was just a neat way to really reiterate the kind of language that indicates new learning. I thought it was a benefit of doing that. And then too, for timing. If we didn't feel like we had enough time to do the whole comments and connections thing, it was a nice way to do that. All right, and what are you hearing as they're sharing? What are you noticing? Okay, well, I'll let you, yeah. Teachers, anything you noticed about the kinds of thinking they were doing or the sharing that they were doing?
Right. Okay, about
Let's talk more about that, because that's something to explore when we get back to the room too. That's a good thing. All right, we're good. We'll wrap it up.
okay, guys, about 15 more seconds.
So I just restate the I can't, that's something that they're going to do, not just in this text, but any text they read.
Okay.
So I feel like
Okay.
I'm standing in front of you.
Focus. Eyes on me. Okay, so remember, if you're reading a new text, something that you don't know, what should you do? What should you do? Write it down, okay? So that's what we did, right? We noticed and recorded our new learning, right? And we learned the code for new learning, which is an L. Okay, now something that I did notice is everyone kind of used the same thinking track. I didn't know. Do we always have to use the same one? No, and here's just some examples of different things that you can use for that specific thinking track. I never knew. It can even be something like, wow. If something really catches your attention, wow. I learned, I was surprised, cool, I didn't believe. And here's some more. Does anyone have something else that they might want to add to that?
Did anybody else's brain say anything else other than that when you saw something new? Did you hear anything else in your head?
Well, then when we do this next, oh, you had another one. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you, ma'am.
One that I wanted to add, sorry, my voice is going away, was it's important to know. If you think something is really important, you can start. It's important to know this. Right? What about teachers? You all think of any other way to start that?
I
thinking
think that's
track?
good for now, so we can wrap it up. Because
All
I
right.
think, and that's teachers, that's a great one because that's going to lead into that whole determining importance, like we talked about. Awesome. We're good to go. I'm going to turn you over to your teacher. Boys and girls, thank you so much for doing reading work with us. And I'm going to turn you over to it. And teachers, we'll take a quick just break on our way back and head back to the room. Oh, you don't need this.